Hey everyone, it's Samantha, and today I'm going to do a kale and spinach soup. This is one of my favorite soups. It kind of is like the Zuppa Toscana recipe, but I make it my own. It's a little bit different with the things that I add to it. So to start this soup, I've got 2 red potatoes finely chopped, along with about a half a head of cauliflower in here. I just finely chopped both of those. I'm going to fill this up with water. You can use some chicken broth. I'm actually going to use bouillon cubes because I used my last box of chicken broth for a recipe recently. So I'm just going to fill it up, and this pot is really old. I don't know if you can see how scratched up this pot is, but it's super old. Love this thing. I'm going to fill it up with water. Okay, so I used 3 bouillon cubes. I already got them in there. And I wanted to point out you can make this recipe completely vegetarian and vegan friendly by using veggie broth instead of the chicken broth. The traditional Zuppa Toscana recipe calls for sausage and prosciutto or bacon, and I always make it without both of those, so I never have the meat in mine, but I do use the chicken broth. You could definitely substitute out the chicken broth. So for spices, I eyeballed everything. I'll give you some approximate measurements. I have some minced onion, which is just finely chopped, dehydrated onion. I was too lazy to cut up an onion. I had already put my cutting board in the sink. So I used about maybe half a teaspoon of that. And then for cracked black pepper, I used about a 1/4 teaspoon. For the red pepper flakes, this is really depending on how spicy you want it. I like it really spicy, so I used about a half a teaspoon of that. And then lots of parsley. That's one of my favorite spices. I used a teaspoon, maybe 2 teaspoons of parsley. So I'm going to give this a good stir, let it simmer for 30 to 45 minutes until the vegetables are tender, and then I will start the next step. So my husband came home, so I'm doing a voiceover for the rest of this video, because we were chatting while I was filming. So there's the kale, and then I also have this Organic Girl baby spinach that I'm going to put in. Sometimes I chop the spinach, sometimes I just stick it in. With the kale, you definitely want to wash it really good. There's the spinach in there, and it wilts up really fast. So that's that container and a half of spinach all wilted down. I'm going to give it a good stir and then start adding the kale in. I washed the kale really good, and then you just take the spines out of the kale and then break it up. So I've got pieces right there that are a little nice sized chunks, and there's what the spine looks like when I rip off all the kale, and I just give it a rough rip. And you can see it's really bulky at first, but it'll wilt down really nice. I just let this cook another 10 to 15 minutes until everything's nice and wilted down. You can see my soup is starting to thicken up because of all the wonderful vegetables. So this is about 10 to 15 minutes later. Everything's nice and wilted down. It looks delicious. And now it's time to add the milk. You can add cream, or you can add whatever milk that you like. We just have 2% milk that we use. And I end up using about half of this. I think it's a quart size container. Ends up being half, and you just give it a good stir and let the soup heat back up. Since the milk is cold, it'll take a couple of minutes to heat all the way through. And since milk has a tendency to scorch when it's simmering or boiling too much, be careful and keep your eye on it now to make sure it doesn't overheat and scorch. That's it. It's just super duper easy. I'm making sure it's all nice incorporated, and then I'm just going to let it simmer for a couple of minutes. And here's a big bowl of soup. This is one of my bowls that's a little bit chipped, so ignore that, but you can see the soup. It's got plenty of vegetables in it. It's really healthy. You can't really go wrong, and for me, I just eat as much as I want because it's basically all vegetables. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you like recipe videos, and be sure to subscribe to my channel if you liked it. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.